The phone rings at 3:17 a.m., shattering the silence of the Swiss countryside. Police Sergeant André Dubois stumbles through the darkness toward his bedside table, his breath visible in the frigid Alpine air. Outside, snow blankets the cemetery of Coursier-sur-Vevey like a shroud. "Oui," he whispers into the receiver. "Monsieur, we have a situation at the cemetery. You need to come immediately." Dubois pulls on his coat and drives through the winding village streets, past the Manoir de Bonne, where Charlie Chaplin had lived his final 25 years in exile. The estate sits dark and empty now, its windows like hollow eyes staring down at the valley. 3 months ago, on Christmas morning, the world's most famous silent comedian had died peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by his wife Una and their 8 children. At the cemetery gates, flashlights pierce the darkness. The gendarmes stand around an open grave, their faces pale with shock. The heavy oak coffin is gone, all 300 pounds of it, vanished without a trace. Only scattered earth and tire tracks remain where Charlie Chaplin's body should rest eternally. "Mon Dieu," Dubois whispers, crossing himself. "Who would steal the dead?" But even as he asks the question, something deeper churns in his stomach. This isn't just grave robbing. This feels like the final act of a tragedy that began 26 years ago, when America, the nation that made Charlie Chaplin a star, cast him out like a common criminal. Now, even in death, the Little Tramp cannot find peace. What drives men to dig up the dead? And why, of all the corpses in Switzerland, did they choose the broken body of a man who spent his life making the world laugh? Only to die in exile, his heart shattered by the country he loved? 26 years earlier, Charles Spencer Chaplin stands at the ship's rail, watching America disappear into the Atlantic haze. At 63, his trademark mustache has gone gray, but his eyes still burn with the intensity that created the Little Tramp. He's traveling to London for the premiere of Limelight, his love letter to the theater, perhaps his finest film. What he doesn't know is that he will never see American soil again. In his first-class cabin, a telegram waits. Attorney General James McGranary has revoked his re-entry permit. After 40 years in Hollywood, Charlie Chaplin is now persona non grata, banned from the United States. The news hits like a physical blow. Chaplin sinks into his cabin chair, hands trembling. Una, his 4th wife, 18 when they married, now 27 with 4 young children, tries to comfort him. But there is no comfort for this kind of rejection. The FBI has compiled a 1,900-page file on him. J. Edgar Hoover's agents have bugged his phones, opened his mail, stationed men outside his Beverly Hills home for over a decade. His crime? Making The Great Dictator in 1940, when America still played nice with Hitler. Advocating for a second front to help Russia defeat the Nazis. Refusing to join the Communist Party, or any party, being a citizen of the world when nationalism demanded absolute loyalty. "I am what I am," he tells Una, staring out at the endless ocean. "A workman. I show up every day and do my job." His voice cracks. "But they don't want my work anymore." The irony cuts deep as a knife. The Little Tramp, that universal symbol of resilience, the underdog who always gets back up, has been created by a man America now considers its enemy. The character who represented hope for millions during the Great Depression is suddenly too dangerous for the land of the free. In Hollywood, only 3 people publicly defend him: Sam Goldwyn, Cary Grant, and William Wyler. The rest, an entire industry built on his innovations, turn their backs. The American Legion campaigns to ban his films from theaters nationwide. Limelight becomes a box office poison, playing to empty seats across the United States. But here's what the government agents don't understand about Charlie Chaplin. he's already a ghost. Abandoned as a child in London's workhouses, orphaned by an alcoholic father, and a mother driven mad by syphilis, he learned early that survival means keeping your deepest self hidden. The Little Tramp isn't just a character, it's camouflage. A way to tell the truth about society's cruelty while making people laugh instead of revolt. Now America has done what Victorian England couldn't. It has broken the man behind the mask. In his private letters to friend James Agee, Chaplin's rage bleeds through elegant prose. "They have stolen my country from me," he writes. "Not the country itself, but the idea of it, the dream I came here to fulfill." As the ship carries him toward exile, Charlie Chaplin makes a decision that will echo beyond the grave. He will never fight the ban. He will never beg to return. If America doesn't want him, he will become what they've made him. A man without a country, a ghost haunting the edges of memory. 20 years after his exile, Charlie Chaplin steps onto American soil for the first time in 2 decades. He is 82 years old, frail, using a walking stick. His hands shake with age and emotion. Beside him, Una grips his arm, not to steady him, but to anchor herself. They both know this moment will define how history remembers him. Inside the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, 3,000 of Hollywood's elite wait in thunderous silence. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the same organization that turned its back on him in 1952, has invited him back to receive an honorary Oscar for the incalculable effect he has had in making motion pictures the art form of this century. Jack Lemmon introduces him with words that tremble with suppressed emotion. "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charlie Chaplin." What happens next defies every expectation. As Chaplin shuffles onto the stage, this broken old man who America once branded a communist traitor, the audience explodes. Not polite applause, but something primal, cathartic. 3,000 people leap to their feet as one, applauding, weeping, screaming his name. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10. Chaplin stands at the podium, tears streaming down his weathered face, overwhelmed by an outpouring of love he never thought he'd feel again. The ovation stretches to 12 minutes, the longest in Oscar history. Grown men sob. Women clutch their hearts. The camera captures faces twisted with guilt, grief, and redemption. "This is one of the happiest moments of my life," he manages to whisper into the microphone. His voice breaks on every word. "And I can only say, thank you for the honor of inviting me here." He tries to continue, but emotion chokes off his words. The audience understands. They've said everything that needs saying with their tears. But in that moment of triumph, something else is happening. The 12-minute ovation isn't just Hollywood's apology, it's an exorcism. For 20 years, the ghost of Charlie Chaplin has haunted American cinema. Every comedy that followed bore his DNA. Every underdog story echoed his themes. The Little Tramp's spirit had never left Hollywood Boulevard. It had been waiting, patient as a saint, for America to remember its soul. In Swiss exile, Chaplin had spent 2 decades writing letters that burned with unresolved anguish. "I carry around a load of anger, verging on rage," he confessed to friends. The betrayal had poisoned his final films, robbed him of his creative fire. Switzerland's serene mountains couldn't heal what America had broken in him. But now, standing in that golden theater, feeling the love wash over him like absolution, Charlie Chaplin finally exhales 20 years of held breath. The ghost can rest. Except ghosts, once awakened, don't always go quietly. 5 years after his Hollywood resurrection, Charlie Chaplin dies in his sleep on Christmas morning. Una finds him peaceful, finally free from the rage that had consumed him since 1952. They bury him in the quiet cemetery of Corsier-sur-Vevey. believing his story has ended. But Roman Wardas, a 24-year-old unemployed mechanic, sees opportunity in death. On the night of March 1, 1978, he and his accomplice steal Chaplin's 300-pound oak coffin, hiding it in a cornfield outside Nouville. Their ransom demand $600,000 to return the body of the world's most famous comedian. For 76 days, Charlie Chaplin's corpse lies hidden in Swiss soil while his widow negotiates with grave robbers. The irony would have amused him. Even in death, he remains exiled, displaced, unable to rest. When police finally recover his remains, they encase his coffin in 2 meters of concrete and place a concrete slab over his grave. The final imprisonment of a man who spent his life breaking free. But here's what the grave robbers, and perhaps even Chaplin himself, never understood. You cannot steal a ghost. You cannot bury a symbol. The Little Tramp was never about Charlie Chaplin's mortal body. It was about the idea of him, the eternal outsider who makes us laugh at our own cruelty, who finds dignity in the gutter, who gets knocked down and always gets back up. Today, at 6751 Hollywood Boulevard, Charlie Chaplin's star gleams in the sidewalk. Tourists from around the world kneel to photograph it, many leaving flowers shaped like bowler hats. Street performers in his iconic costume shuffle along the Walk of Fame, channeling his spirit for tips and selfies. But late at night, when the crowds thin and the neon signs dim, something else walks Hollywood Boulevard. Security guards report a figure in a too small jacket and oversized shoes, performing for an audience of shadows. The figure tips his bowler hat to invisible admirers, twirls his cane, and disappears around corners that lead nowhere. Perhaps it's the ghost of America's guilty conscience. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe Charlie Chaplin finally came home. Not to the country that exiled him, but to the boulevard where dreams are born and broken, where outsiders become legends, where the last shall be first and the first shall be forgotten. The Little Tramp walks Hollywood Boulevard because that's where he belongs, not in graves or concrete tombs, but in the space between streetlights, in the pause between laughter and tears, in the eternal moment when the underdog realizes he's won after all. Some ghosts haunt, others inspire. Charlie Chaplin's ghost does both, reminding us that true art outlives the artists, that love conquers exile, and that sometimes the dead return not for revenge, but for one final bow. The question isn't why Charlie Chaplin's ghost walks Hollywood Boulevard. The question is, what else would a Little Tramp do?